I'm presenting on the topic conduction of quantitative research, which leads to a good research article. Okay. So nowadays, research is mandatory to be in academics, and all of us are doing research. Some of you are already pursued research. Some of you are pursuing, and still some people yet to pursue research. So in that context, I'm just presenting some idea on how to conduct a quantitative research with which we can write a good research article. Okay, so in all engineering fields, we have various problems derived from the society, and in every field we have various instruments, various devices from which we take measurements, and then we do a quantitative research. Okay, so can do similar research. You can find in the nature so many problems, like even if you go around in your roads, you can find a lot of garbage, etc. is thrown. Some measurement can be taken to overcome this. Maybe some tool can be developed to overcome this problem, or some protocol may be proposed with this developed tool, that dust or that waste segregation, some algorithm can be developed, and that can be proposed to the local authorities and they can use it. So this way we have to derive the research problem from the social aspect and think on how to address that problem, So here we need to design the experiments, and various equipments are used, measurements, sensors, transducers, etc. can be used. For example, how we can solve the medical problem where many people are suffering, automated analysis is required. Here, by the use of computers, by the usage of computer algorithms, where we can use mathematics, linear algebra, statistics, etc. And how we can achieve this? We have a automated analysis of medical data as a problem, and we have to design some experiments. We have to use computers, algorithms, mathematics, etc. And how we may achieve this? Maybe a automated heart sound analysis we can do. Maybe intelligent stethoscope can be developed, which can measure the heart sound, and it can suggest is there any abnormalities or not to the physician, and with which physician can easily take a diagnosis. Okay, so example how to achieve this is developing an intelligent microscope for histopathology. This means in the hospitals they take biopsy whenever cancer or any tissue is there, mass, any abnormal mass is there in the body. What they do is they collect small part of it, and that is called biopsy. Okay, and that part of the tissue is kept under a slide is prepared, and that slide is kept under the electron microscope, and from there the histopathologist will understand what is going on and what is wrong with those cells, and whether there is a cancer or not, the histopathologist can understand. So in histopathology, he has to go through the slides manually, and he has to give his inference. It takes a lot of time. Instead, photograph can be taken using a camera from the microscope, and from that images can be processed, and with which some intelligent inference can be made. Okay, this is how one research problem can be chosen. Some examples are given. Second step is search keywords using different search engines. Search engine means the one like Google or Google Scholar, whichever. You search something in Yahoo also, you have you search some keywords, you will get some information wherever available in the world. So search engines examples are Google, Google Scholar, Scopus, IEEE Explore, etc. There are many search engines. Even there are meta search engines also, which use many search engines in it, and which can give you the data. The search result it can give you. Use different combination of keywords in your research area. You try with different keywords, and you can use the combination of keywords as well. Okay, using advanced search options also you can use. Okay, Advanced search options in the sense, you may search from the titles, you may search from the abstract, you can also search from the full paper, etc. All these options are available in searching. In advanced search, you will get all these options: full search, full text search, or title search, abstract search, etc. Okay, and searching also you have to use the appropriate keywords. You know, nowadays when we write research article, we are also writing keywords. So from these keywords, all the papers are connected. So whenever you give a keyword, no, it will search papers with those keywords. Okay, so with which you can narrow down or find out some research papers which are already published, from which you can formulate your research problem. Okay, first thing is you have to derive a problem from the social aspect and search in a search engine with different possible keywords, then fetch results. From these results, download some papers and read them and find out what is not solved so far and that needs to be solved, and formulate a problem uh, on this aspect. Okay, here what I'm saying is make a database of relevant research papers. After searching in the various search engines, you frame a database of various research papers. While searching, you may also find some review articles. You can fetch that. Say now it is 2020. In some problem, you are finding a survey paper in 2015 published in a very good journal. Okay, you can rely on that survey paper. And after that date, after that paper published, what all papers published in the same area, you can find out them. You can find them out, and this is till 2015. You can rely on that survey paper, provided survey paper should have been published in a good journal. At least faithful survey paper, it should be there. Okay, here you have to make a database of relevant papers based on your online search in the given area using different keywords. You can use all search engines, various search engines you can use, and various ways you can combine your keywords. Okay, and then you can find papers. A number of papers may be popped up during your search. Just read them, title. You will understand. Maybe when you search, you may get thousands of research articles. Then you read the title and drop some of them. Or when you put your keywords, you will get thousands of papers. So then you narrow your search. So you are searching some general aspects in the internet. So based on that, thousands of papers you are getting. Then narrow down some keywords you mention, or combination of keywords also you can use. Okay, combination of keywords you can use, and you can reduce them to less than 100. Okay, then you read the title and abstract, then drop some of the papers, okay, which are not aligned to your aspect which you are investigating in your research. If they are not aligned, you drop them, find out more relevant papers in that area, and finally some 30-40 papers you retain. Okay, so once you retain these 30-40 papers, take a printout or you read them fully in the computer and find out what aspects are there in all these papers, which varies in all these papers. Okay, I will come to that. Find some aspects in all these papers so that you can differentiate each of the paper. So I will come to that in more detail. Okay, try to search survey paper. Then reading a paper, you have to, in every paper you will find references. Suppose a good paper is published few years back. While reading, you will find what is the state of the art till that author must have explained previous works. Okay, yeah. This is what I was saying. When you survey the literature, you find a number of papers, say 40 papers you have got. And from this paper, from each of the papers you read, don't read full paper, but just read the title, abstract, and then go to their formulation, in the sense introduction, where you have literature survey and gap analysis is there, go through that. And what methods they've used, understand. But don't read like a textbook. Any research paper shouldn't be read like a textbook. Okay, so just go through, and at the end of reading, you find out what the authors have contributed, what they have done it, and what is remaining, what they have not done so far. So this analysis we have to do. So in every research paper, we have to understand what they have done, why they have done, what results they got, and are these results, what is the generalization of these results, and what performance if they have got, what is the impact of their research, and finally whether it is required for you or not in your direction. Okay. In my problem, what I pursued is electrocardiogram analysis during my PhD. For me, after reading a number of papers, these aspects were important. Every day, every research paper, they were using a different ECG database. Even though they were using the same database, some were using some portion of the database, some people were using the full database, and some people were using different categories in the data, different methods, different classifiers, and different performance they were obtaining. So now I have to standardize these things. I find a lot of papers. Each paper there are different databases, different data size, different classes, varied methods, classifiers, and performance. So each of these papers differ by these aspects. Each paper using a different database, each one is using a different classifier, different performance. But so I have to comment on these aspects. I have to understand the papers in terms of these aspects then. Okay. And this is not same for all areas. In your civil engineering area, you may have a different aspects which you are required to solve, required to see in all these papers. Okay. So 40 papers when you shortlist, all the 40 papers you read and distinguish them in terms of these parameters. For my problem, these parameters were essential. For your research problem, there may be a different aspect or some aspects are required. Those aspects you shortlist and then prepare a table where columns corresponds to these aspects and rows corresponds to different paper. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. For my application, electrocardiogram analysis, I had a prepared table like this, where I had a number of papers, one published in 97, then 2000, 2006, up to 2012. Okay, these were my own papers. Up to 2010, I have mentioned each of the literature, what parameter they extracted in those papers, and what automated classifier they used, and what different number of classes they used, and what performance. So I can find here every paper using a different parameter, different classifier, different number of classes, and different accuracies they are obtaining. Performance. Accuracy means is a performance measure. Okay. So I can easily understand, I can go through each of the paper, different aspect is studied in each of the paper. This is what we need. At the end, we don't require literatures are listed and we cannot find difference in these parameters. Then those parameters we don't require. We have to find out those parameters through which the different articles vary. Okay. So in this application, I have framed a table like this, and from this I can find first paper, they have used some time domain measurements. Second, they have used some other measurements, etc. Then after referring all these papers, I find, of course, simple measurements are taken and the data is non-linear, and linear methods were used by all the authors. So why we cannot use non-linear method when the data itself is non-linear and it is not linear, data is not linear, but we are using linear measurements. So how it is logical? This was the question of my research. Okay, so yeah, in my research, I have used some dimensionality reduction method, which we call them as data reduction methods, and different classifiers are used and different performance I obtained. Okay, I'll go in detail. Yeah, then see where there is a lacuna or a gap in the literature. Okay, what is a gap in this research? This we have to identify. What is not done? Where there is a scope. If something is not done, why it is not done? And if something is not worked, why it didn't work? And what you can add here. And whatever you adding, whether it makes sense. If it makes sense, why can't you solve like this? Okay, these are the questions have to be addressed in every paper. And these parameters are specific to my research, and the different research, these parameters change. So different parameters may be there in different research. Okay. So one example, yeah, this is what I said. Nonlinear methods were not explored for the ECG. So, and this is one gap. Another gap is people have classified electrocardiogram but they have not followed the regulatory standard, which is ANSI AAMI EC 52. Okay, advancement. Yeah, advancement for medical instrumentation, Association for Advancement of Medical Instrumentation. This standard is called. Okay, then every paper, a different resolution, different accuracy, etc. are available. So from this, this is a problem. Application of non-linear methods for ECG. This itself is a problem. Okay, so now how to solve this problem? Okay, yeah, define the problem based on this lacunae. Okay, what drawbacks we have found out, based on that we have to define a research problem. Why nonlinear methods cannot be applied? Okay, we can apply. So why so far people have not applied? Because till that time computers were there, but high-end computers were not there, and computations were more time it was taking. So in the research, many people have not worked on nonlinear methods. Linear methods, computational complexity is less, they can be computed easily, less time is required. So many people didn't use nonlinear methods that time, 2012, 2010 actually, 2009, 2010 that time. Okay, then I used this nonlinear methods such as cumulant, bispectrum, etc. I've used. These are some of the nonlinear methods, like other things, time domain measurements like mean, standard deviation, etc. Like that, this is another measurement which is a nonlinear. It will find the relationship between variables in a nonlinear manner. Okay, then what it offers? It gives a unique representation in the time lag domain. It's a bonus for us. Okay, so nonlinear methods are not applied, so I've chosen nonlinear methods. And as an additional thing, it gives a unique representation. Then identify supplementary and complementary reading techniques and tools that may be needed. Here what we have to do is we have to find others what methods they have used, and what other alternate methods are available, and what methods have been studied so far, and what techniques and tools can be applied. So here some analysis can be done, and we can choose the appropriate method required for our research. Okay, this is the design of experiments. After literature survey and after preparing a table, comparing various literature and what is the gap, then I framed a question, use nonlinear methods for ECG classification. Okay, now how to do that? We need to design an experiment. We need the ECG from a given database, then we have to process them and derive some measurements and classify. This is called design of experiments. In my case, it was ECG and these mathematical methods. Maybe you may question, you may find literature, publications, etc. And you may come across why in civil engineering maybe, why climatic variations occurs, what parameters change, maybe weather, maybe forecast, what is missing. You can frame a table on these aspects, and then you have to find a question on this, and then to solve that question or answer that question, we need to design experiments, and after designing the experiments, we have to get values for every parameter, and then quantitatively we have to prove that these parameters contribute that particular case. Okay, statistical analysis we may have to do. Maybe in some area, you can also apply this for soil also. Different places, the soil productivity is different. Some places paddy grows well, some places it may not grow well. So why it is not happening like that? So we have to, maybe you can search papers on this soil measurement, soil parameter measurements. You may find a number of papers, and you can identify different molecules or different fertilizers present in that mud, different chemicals present in that mud, and then you can analyze, and some quantitative methods or statistical methods you can apply to prove your question, whether there is an association between a particular molecule present in your soil to the fertility of that soil. So this way you can formulate some research question. Okay, then how we are going to answer that research question? Okay, you have to find some places where different soil you can find. take the measurements using sensors and equipments, and those measurements, of course, they are numbers. So from there, from those numbers, you have to apply some statistical methods, and you have to say whether such association is present or not. Okay, this way you can quantitatively prove your research problem. Okay, so in my problem, I found a cumulant. It was looking like this for a normal ECG beat. ECG is a long measurement. It's a long strip per minute. You will find 60 to 80 cycles, and one cycle I can take, and for one cycle I'm plotting cumulant like this for a normal beat. And the second plot is nothing but a slice of this three-dimensional plot. Okay, it is looking like this in 3 dimensions. What I will do is I will fix a plane and I will cut it. And in that cross section, what I find, this is my second plot. This is called contour plot. At a given point, we are taking a slice on this first curve so that we will get the second curve. So from this, if I see the normal ECG beat, some one cycle, I can find some information. But here I can find it's a beautiful representation. Yeah, I will explain further things, how it changes to the abnormal. See, this is for abnormal signal, how this nonlinear representation completely changes. Okay, in the time domain, if you see the ECG, there are variations, but in this representation, I can see drastic and so glaring difference. Okay, so for a normal ECG beat, the nonlinear representation looks like this, and for abnormal ECG signal, it changes, representation totally changes. So how it is important for us? Okay, so what doctors, physicians see, he will see the ECG strip, he will say, is there an abnormality or not? Slight changes he can find in the time domain. But we are representing in a nonlinear domain, and we are showing these plots to the physician, and there is a drastic change in the plots with which you can discriminate each data more well. Okay, so normal and abnormal ECG can be distinguished because it is giving lot of difference from the normal representation and abnormal representation. There is a drastic change in the representation, same methods, same variables, but plot looks entirely different. So this can be used in discriminating, providing discrimination in classifying the medical data. Okay, same thing can be applied in any field. Okay, now what were my inferences on this? Two classes of ECG beats we have seen, they exhibit totally different characteristics in a given domain. That is cumulant domain, we call it as time lag domain. Okay, now extracting characteristics or measure features from these plots can give significant information so that we can separate them. Normal and abnormal, we can separate much easily seeing this representation than in the original time domain representation. Okay, principal component analysis is the dimensionality reduction method which is used on these cumulants, and then these measurements, principal components, they provided a 94% accuracy over 5 classes with around 35,000 ECG beats. And this computation took 8 hours on a workstation. There were almost 35,000 ECG beats. In each ECG beat, we had 250 samples, 250 values we had as an array. And from there, we had to generate this plot, which we have seen, and these experiments should be implemented. This representation is computed in cumulant computation, then reduced its dimension, and then classification for performed. And at the end of the classification, we got this performance, 94.52%. And on a workstation, it took almost 8 hours. Okay, now, I have formulated a research in that what method should be, what is the lacunae in the literature. Then after the lacunae, we have designed the experiments, we have conducted the experiments, we have got a performance, and now we have to write a research article. Okay, yeah. So what are the components of a research article? all of you know, research article will have a title, abstract, keywords, introduction, materials, methodology, results, discussion, conclusion, and references. And these things are specific to a computational research article. It may vary slightly depending on various fields. In a civil engineering, there may be these titles may slightly change. Title, abstract, introduction will be there, and depending on the experiment, these things may change. Of course, result, discussion, conclusion, references are there. Methodology, materials, it may slightly vary depending on the application. Okay. Now, what are the contents to be present in title? Title, seeing the title, one has to understand the research, what research is done in this paper. Even the researcher, when you do this research, also you have search for papers. You have fetched different papers based on the search engine. So, why you got? Well, because people have given such name. Seeing the name, one has to understand what research he has done. It is a representation of the entire paper in a one title. Okay. Then after title, you have abstract. Okay, some components of abstract in a particular application can be like this. Some introduction to that area, one sentence you can mention. Problems faced in that area, another one sentence maybe. And what solution you can propose for that problem is one sentence. Solution, whatever solution you have proposed, how it is superior among alternate approaches. Then what methods you are going to apply and what results you are going to get, and what are the generalization of your results or social implications and where it can be applied, where it can be used. These are the contents of an abstract of any good research article. And these things slightly change. What these points are for computational research, but now experimental research, it may slightly vary. Computational research means you have a database and you are applying your methods and testing performance of your methods. This is algorithmic research, it is called computational research or algorithmic research. You can also have experimental research or application research. So that things may slightly change. Okay. Depending on case to case basis, these contents may slightly change. Almost it is like this only, slight changes may be there depending on application. Okay. Now next section is introduction. Okay. So you are introducing the research problem. So you have to show what is the importance of the problem which you are solving. Okay. So yeah, you have to give some statistics of the problem. For example, some person, you are developing a software for detecting heart disease. Is it important? Okay. So how it is important? Because there are so many casualties taking place in the city or in the country or in the world. So some of the statistics you can mention, and you can, with that you can prove that why that problem is that important globally as well as in our country. Okay, so obviously when a problem is important, it has more potential to get research grants as well as getting used in applications and even filing patents also. Whenever you solve a problem, it should be socially relevant and important for the mankind. Okay. Okay. Then some general discussion we need to give in introduction. Then thesis of the paper. Thesis of the paper consists of literature survey, then your proposed or the lacunae, then proposed method and advantages. These things should come in your thesis of the paper. Okay. So first, literature survey. Categorize a group of papers with similar category of methods. Okay. So literature survey, when you do, maybe your problem may be one. In that case, only single flow you will have. Sometimes your literature survey, there may be 2-3 aspects. So separate the aspects, and in each aspect, write the literature in a chronological order. Okay, write the literature in chronological order. Means first old papers, then gradually new papers you list. And the papers which you list, they need to be connected. And each paper needs to be explained in not more than 2 or 3 sentences. Entire 7-8 page of paper should come in 2 or 3 sentences, where critically you have to say what they have done, what they failed to do, and how that failed things can be fulfilled with your method or the subsequent literature. Okay, so literature survey has to be written in a chronological order where old literature you should mention first and then next literature and so on. In the first literature, you will give what method they have done, what they failed to do, and what can be done, and then give the next method and say how the next method solve the problems or have overcome the lacunae present in the previous method. And this way you have to stitch all the important papers which you have surveyed in your literature by searching using search engines. Okay, and if you have only one category in your application, you will have one or two paragraphs with the connectivity and a chronological order. Suppose if you have 2-3 similar categories in a problem, then each category you have to take, and within the category you should have chronological order. In a smooth way, the literature needs to be stitched in a research paper. Okay, what then next is what is proposed in the current paper. Seeing all this literature, seeing all these drawbacks in every literature, their advantages, disadvantages, then you have to formulate your own problem, which was not solved by anyone else. Nowhere it must have been solved in the world. Okay, then why the problem which you are solving is that important? What are its advantages, etc. This is also called hypothesis, setting the problem. Okay, problem you are setting here, and the problem is also called as hypothesis. Then last portion in your introduction is organization. Second, here you are writing introduction, right? At the end of the introduction, you have to mention section 2 gives what, section 3, section 4, section 5, what it gives, and which section concludes. References you need not have to mention in the organization. Okay, then materials you have used, which data you have used to your research, you need to mention. Then characteristics of the data, size of the data, who has contributed that data, from where it was collected, whether proper ethical clearance is obtained. All those things needs to be mentioned in this section. And idea of data and results presentation, this also you need to give. And it varies. In experimental research, it changes slightly. Materials, depending on what materials you have, it changes. Okay. This is for a quantitative computational research. Materials, what they used, I just mentioned. Okay. Now methodology. Methodology are the systematic steps or systematic methods present in your methodology. Methodology means you have designed the experiments and what methods you're using in your experiments sequentially and finally to get the output. This is called methodology. And methodology, we should describe with fine details all the methods, not in so much detail. In detail, you can find it in any of the textbook, but only what is newness in that paper you have to mention. Newness in that method you have to mention. Okay, some important aspects to implement. Those things only you have to mention. Okay, in every method you may find a textbook itself, but we don't have space in journals to write more about methods. Okay, we have to minimize writing existing things and what is new and what is the interpretation that we have to give here. Okay, and journal has word and page limits. Okay, your journal whichever written should fall within that many words or that many pages. Okay, methods needs to be described judiciously. Okay, in the sense you don't describe too much, not even too little. Okay, how much required for your application you have to write. And whenever you write papers, you need not have to give existing things. Already existing things are there, you can mention and give a reference and you can proceed further. But you need not have to keep explaining methods in your paper. Okay, and when you mention contents of any paper, you have to give the due reference there itself in square bracket, or in different manner you can give the references. It depends on the journal for which you are submitting the paper. Reference style varies from journal to journal. And common things like primitive things, you need not have to give a reference. For example, electromagnetic spectra. You need not have to give a reference to that electromagnetic spectra. Okay. Same way, any topic well known, present in every textbook, you need not have to give a reference. Whatever available publicly, you need not have to give a reference. Textbooks available in a textbook, and it is a common knowledge, you need not have to give a reference. But something new, you refer from a paper, you need to give a reference. Okay. In the introduction, I said statistics of the disease needs to be given. So statistics, some numbers, it is a claim. What numbers you give is a claim in your paper. So that you have to support with a reference. You need to have a reference when you give any numbers like this. Okay. This is methodology, this is results. Okay. Experimental results are to be explained in detail. And results should be justifiable, with which you should be able to prove your research questions, or you should be able to prove your hypothesis. And naive or trivial things need not be given in the results. And results shouldn't duplicate, in the sense you may give results as a table and once again you are plotting. This is not required. Any one form with which you can convince well is enough. Redundancy is not required in any research paper. Okay, results should support your hypothesis. You provide such results with which you will be able to prove your hypothesis, or whatever you have done, you should be able to prove. So your results should be in such way that you should be able to prove what you have proposed in your research article. Okay, now discussion. Okay, discussion is an important section in a research paper. Many people ignore having a discussion section in the research paper. It is different than result. Result, only in that particular application you are getting some results, and little broad inferences you have to draw in discussion. Little broad inferences based on your result you have to make. Say for example, I worked on ECG, a particular abnormality I worked and got results. Okay, those results are only for that database. But when they work for that database, what way you can find out, make medical decisions, how you can go into more general cases, all these things should come in inferences. Okay, then comparison with the prior art. Okay, so comparison with prior art means comparing your results with what people have got already. Okay, so this is in your literature survey, you search a number of papers and you list, right? So some important papers aligned more in your direction, those papers you have to put as a table for comparison in the literature, in the discussion table. This serves as a comparison with the literature. Okay, then prominent alternate methods described in previous papers are to be mentioned in your table, as well as you can explain in 1 or 2 sentences. Elaborate explaining is not required, and it should be highly judiciously you have to do it. You have to judge appropriately for that application. Yeah, papers with important results needs to be compared here. Papers not aligned that much in this area are to be explained in the introduction in the literature survey. Okay, then conclusions. What is conclusion? Okay, what is achieved or what is the moral of the story is to be explained maximum of 2 sentences. Okay, some social utility of the results obtained you can give, where it can be applied, how it can change that field, and what scope you can propose for the future research in that area, or what future directions you can say, you can mention in conclusion. Okay, this is how you can formulate a research article, and once you conclude, you have to list all the references. All the references you need to list in your reference section, and make sure these references are indexed. Actually, indexing means any reference you refer, any reference, some people have published a research paper few years back and which you are referring now. So when you refer this article, his article, he will get a new citation. Okay, so references should be very carefully written. A full stop or spelling, once a character is wrong, then a reference will not be indexed. Okay, so when you put a reference, every given name, surname, paper title, everything should be correct. Even a single character shouldn't miss. Okay, and there are various reference styles. IEEE uses Chicago style. There are many styles, reference styles. One is American Psychological Association style, which is called as APA, then Chicago, then many formats are there. Each journal uses a different style. So you have to provide references in the reference style which the journal requires. Provide all attributes of the references. All attributes in the sense, a reference can be a journal article, it can be a conference article, it can be a book chapter, it can be a book, it can be a web content. Okay, so if a journal article you are referring, author's name you have to list, followed by title of the paper, then journal name, volume, issue, page pointer, and year. These many things should be there. And for a conference, author name, title of the paper, conference, volume issue, page number, and year you have to mention. And in some reference styles, even city of conference also you need to mention. It depends. Different styles, it varies. Okay. You can also use, instead of listing references like this, you can also use bibliographic softwares like EndNote, LaTeX, Jotero, etc. You can use. Okay. So various bibliometric softwares are available. EndNote is a paid software. It is not required. Of course, you get pirated, but LaTeX is always open source. You can use. Zotero also you can use. Okay, typesetting software you can use LaTeX or any other. And LaTeX also, you can install LaTeX software in your computer and you can write the paper. Also, there are some online services, example Overlay, where you can write paper in LaTeX itself online. Okay, your other authors also can update from other places in the world or other places anywhere. Okay, Overlay is very useful tool, LaTeX tool available online. You need a good internet connection. Okay, some strengths of a research paper. Okay, so whenever you write a paper, what are its strengths, what are its weaknesses? Okay, thesis of the paper is well defined. It means literature survey is good, gap analysis is good, formulation of the problem is good. Okay, then other aspects, flow is good. Entire paper is written in the same flow. Looks like same person wrote the paper. References are sufficient, adequate. Trivial explanation has to be avoided. Be very judicious in giving explanations. Use your own sentences. Never copy word by word. Frame your own sentences. If you are submitting papers written by someone else, maybe students, make sure that it is free from plagiarism and copyright violations. This is very important. Even if your student writes a paper and publishes, and if it is caught plagiarism, then entire career is gone. Students as well as the guide's career also is gone. Okay, you should be very careful in plagiarism and copyright issues. Even you may not get a high similarity index. Maybe you have copied a figure from one book, or one or two figures you have copied from a book, and by plagiarism check, it will not cross 25%. It may be 10%, suppose. But even because of one figure, you may face some issues after publication. Okay, you should be very careful. Even if you adopt a figure from a different source, you need to take prior permission from that publisher, and you have to also cite that in your paper, from which source you are taken. Okay. You can use plagiarism check software if you have access. If you don't have access to plagiarism software, you can use Google itself. Paragraph by paragraph, you can check. It is not difficult. Checking plagiarism, you can do your own using Google also. If you have access to Turnitin or Authenticate, you can do it. If you don't have, you can use Google itself, Google or Google Scholar. Paragraph by paragraph you put in Google, you will find from which source it has come. Okay. some journal-specific customization of an article is required. Whenever you publish an article in any journal, it should fall in that journal's theme and scope. Okay, so whenever you publish a paper, it should fall in the theme and scope of a particular journal. Yeah, some limitations of a research article. Data representation is not good, suppose. So you frame a hypothesis and you represent the data, and the reader cannot connect the hypothesis to prove, he cannot understand. So you have to represent the data such a way that your hypothesis is to be proved. Okay. So what research questions you are putting in your research paper, they need to be proved by seeing the data. So such results you highlight, and results which do not prove that or are not along that direction, they are not required. Okay. When you write a research paper, a representation of the data should be good. Okay. Obtained results are not consistent. It gives a doubt whether the results are actually got or manipulated. Okay. So this is also important. Obtained results should be consistent. Paper is not well connected. Flow is not smooth. This is another limitation. Some part of the paper is well connected, good flow, sentences are good, flow is good. But other some one or two paragraphs are not well written. So this gives a doubt to the reviewer. Only those well written paragraphs are copied, and not that well written paragraphs are written by the author. This is very serious. In some papers, discussion is missing. Discussion is very important, where you compare and contrast your solution with the existing and you draw the broad inferences. That is very important. Very purpose of research paper is that only. Okay, comparison with the previous literature is not well done. This is also a limitation. If in any field, if a study itself is lacking, there is no research works in a field, you can mention it. It is for the first of its kind and such works are not there in that area, you can just mention. And very common and publicly known or basic or named things, you need not have to give a reference. These are some of the limitations. There are some tips to find plagiarism. Some text looks very professionally written and the rest is not well written. These are some of the tips with which you can catch plagiarism. Okay. So, any questions? Any questions?
If any questions are there, I think the faculty members can ask the question.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Most of you are doing your research, right? Some of you are doing, some of you still have to register. So any doubts are there, you can ask.
Sir,
Yes.
I have one question.
Yes.
Regarding the keywords, we have to start. You said we have to start with some keywords so
Yes.
that we can narrow down our search engine, right?
Yes, yes. Narrow down your search. Yes.
Yeah. While going with the keywords, how many papers we are supposed to download in that regard?
Any number, it depends on your problem. You search using different keywords and you will, all the papers are listed, and it depends on topic to topic. It depends on topic to topic. So there is no hard and fast rule that only this many number of papers are to be present in a area, because what happens is the researchers are doing research. Some areas are explored well. You can find thousands of research articles, whereas some areas are not that explored much. They are new. Only few papers you may find. Okay, it is highly subjective. Even in areas which much work is done, what aspect you are considering may be new. So it depends on what papers, what work you have to do. After referring the literature, understand what people have worked and why certain aspects are not worked, which you analyze. No? So it depends on that actually. You search over the web, and if you get only 10 papers, it may be new area. It depends. Case to case, it changes.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. You can
Any
try
other
it.
questions? Any other questions? Sir, there is a question. Am I
Yes.
audible, sir?
Yes, you're audible.
Sir, in case of, for example, the faculty members who are publishing the paper in some non-recognized UGC journals, and
Yes.
some people are publishing in case of the maybe it is a Scopus Index or Q3, Q1 journals. So, what
Yes.
difference that makes? What these standard journals are looking for example, compared to the non-recognized UGC journals, they
Yeah.
will get published, but
Mm,
publishing it in the reputed journals, it is very hard. And
yeah.
what parameters they are in particular they are looking for?
Only your literature analysis, gap identification, your results and discussion. Only these things look. Whenever a reviewer gets a paper to review, first he will read abstract, then he will see the introduction in which he will read a literature survey, gap analysis and formulation of the problem, then result and discussion and conclusion. These are the important things. Very important is problem formulation, your literature survey and the gap analysis, and then result and discussion. Only these many are important. Literature survey, gap analysis, your formulation of problem in the sense your experiments, then whether what results you are getting are they consistent with your question, and the discussion and its generalization. Only these things are important. Any reviewer, he will not read any method.
Okay.
It is very rare reading a method by a reviewer. Only if he gets doubt something there, he will find. Otherwise, every reviewer will read the abstract, formulation in introduction. Introduction also initial things he will see, and then he will directly jump to literature survey.
Okay.
Important is literature survey, gap analysis, formulation of the problem. Rest everything fall in line. If these things are there, literature survey, gap analysis, and problem formulation, then a result, a discussion, conclusion will follow. Generally,
Sir, I have one question.
yes,
Sir, if we have come up with one novel mathematical modeling,
yes,
can it be published as one paper?
yes, it can be published. It is a mathematics journals. You can publish it. It is a core research. It is not an application research. If you
No,
come
sir.
up with
I mean, it's not mathematics related. It's a mathematical modeling of some devices.
yeah, that also you can do. It is mathematical modeling of a device you are doing. So what modeling methods were used so far and what new things you are doing, it depends on that. You can publish it.
Okay, sir.
So no
Thank
doubt you
you.
can publish. No doubt you
Hello.
can publish. Hello, yes.
Okay, sir. I have one question, sir. How to choose a journal for publishing a paper, sir?
So you are reviewing the literature, formulating a
Uh,
problem, and you are getting experiment results and discussion.
yes.
You have things. So now you have to see which area you are working, and you have to find the journals which publish that aspect. You have to see. Every journal will have scopes and aim and scope. Every
Yes, sir.
journal, if you go to the home page, you will find scope and aim. So depending on that, you have to choose. Your area should lie on in their scope and aim.
Okay, in the particular area, how to choose particular journal, sir? For
Ah,
example, there are in our area there will be many journals, right?
yeah.
In that, how to
Okay.
choose? So it is
Depends on your problem. For
work.
example, if you tell something, say you are applying a computational method for some data.
Yes, sir.
Say if I apply on, say I have worked on physiological data.
Okay.
For me, important journal is transactions on biomedical engineering. IEEE transactions in biomedical engineering is considered as the very top for biomedical research. Then Journal of Biomedical and Health Informatics. That is the IEEE Journal of Biomedical and Health Informatics. That is next journal we'll see. And
Okay.
then we'll see some elsewhere
I like.
journals. Maybe we can
Okay.
find biomedical signal processing and control we can have. We can also have physiological measurement from Institute of Physics. We can also have measurement journal from elsewhere. We can also
Okay.
have medical engineering and biological computation this way. There are it depends on your area. and which papers are there. You can which journals offer those aim and scope along your paper. You have to find out.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Roshan, sir, if we are using some mathematical models in the research article, that time we have to give some examples for that how it will be work.
No need. No need. No need to give examples. You are using a mathematical model in your application. Correct? No.
Yes.
So just to give some details, not so much detail. If it is well established, you need not have to give much details. Some details you can give, and you can give the reference. And every
Okay. For example, or otherwise, when you are explaining there, we have to explain with some dummy values or some.
no need.
If we give a direct mathematical model, if they're not getting what exactly it is,
No. No,
yes.
mathematical models very less. People see very less. Reviewers don't see much about mathematical model actual. Uh, Maybe you are working in some area. Important is literature survey and formulation of the problem. Then method, some extent you explain what is new, or you can explain the method. Application point of view. Application point of view, you can explain the method. That will be new, but not what you find in textbooks. For example, I have an equation for a straight line y is equal to mx plus c. This I can find in any textbook.
No, sir, what you are saying is that is a generalized or already published mathematical models. What I am telling about is
new.
We only have a new mathematical model that time.
Yeah, then you have to do that. Yes, if your mathematical model is new one which is not existing so far, you can give the mathematical model and then you can give some dummy values and you can prove. Large data you need not have to solve. If your contribution is algorithmic and mathematical tools, you need not have to work much on the applications. You can propose your mathematical model and you can give some example data applied to that, not exhaustively, little bit. And your aim is to prove that mathematical model, not to prove the application. So that way it is unique and new. It will be published. It's a
Okay,
good
sir. Thank you.
It's a good research, proving a mathematical model.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Nowadays, we are seeing a lot of online simulators.
Yeah.
Can we use the online simulator for our work? And
Yes.
Whatever the simulation part we get from that, can we use it for the analysis sake and can it be published in the paper?
Yes, 100% you can do. 100% you can do.
How can we rely on the online simulator, whether the model what they used, is it sophisticated?
No, that depends on the model inventors. Like you can find some Vika software for machine learning. It is developed, everyone uses in his research papers. You can find papers in which people have used Vika. So Vika can be relied because people have used and it is developed by a good group. So it depends.
Sir, especially when I proposing some work or some when I use the online simulator, do have I need to give the credit to the particular online simulator?
Yeah, better to give. Just mention.
Okay.
And in that online simulator itself, they mention that if you are using it for research and if you are publishing, you can mention, you can refer it. They mention.
Especially there is a online simulator called nanohub.org.
Okay.
So under that around 600 simulators are there.
Okay.
So can I make use of those and publish my work?
Yeah, you can. What is that? Nano?
Nanohub.org.
Okay. Okay, you can use it.
Yes, thank you.
Just a minute. You want some more details? I can. Yeah, it is giving services to students, researchers, and institutes, and resources. There are many in that. I just googled it. That tool I can see. I think since many people have used, I think you can use it. Not a problem.
Yes. Okay.
Many
Thank
people, you may find many papers in which this tool is used. You can use it. Anything you can use, but it should be reliable.
Yes, thank you, sir.
And newness is important in any journal paper.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes.
Also, sir, could you also shed some light on review article publications and how different is it from the normal research
Okay.
publication,
Okay.
and what
Okay.
level of expertise it requires?
Okay. Review articles means you are making a survey in a field, in a topic. You are doing a survey. For example, during my PhD, I have done a good literature review, and I have published some 5-6 papers in good journals. Okay. Then after that, I while doing my postdoc, I even more works I have done on the ECG itself, and at the end, after writing 10-12 papers, I have written a survey paper, and that is published in Computer Methods in Biology, Methods and Biology in elsewhere in the year 2014. So when you do your review article, you should have proven expertise in that field by already publishing some papers. You should be mature enough in that field, and then you can write a survey paper. And some people have a interpretation that literature survey means a survey paper. No, it is not. In some of the Indian journals, people say it is a survey paper, but they are doing only literature survey. It is not a survey article. Survey article requires some already established work you should have. You should have already published some articles, and then based on that, you are writing a survey article. Whatever done in that field, you are giving a view, and after that, no one can publish that easily in that field for some time, because everything is available. From that, what is the newness he has to prove? Okay, so once you do your research, better to wind it up as a survey paper at the end. After publishing 4 or 5 papers, try to do a survey paper. And in the PhD itself, if you do a survey paper, it is very good. In foreign universities, they insist at the end of the PhD, you should have your own survey paper as well as a monograph.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, it is always better to end your PhD with a survey paper as well as a monograph.
Okay.